Hi everyone, it's Jill Lancet here for your Thursday night video. It's a quick one. It is going to be, it could be a sympathy card. It could be a card to help somebody lift their spirits if they're a bit low or if they've had an incident that they're struggling with. Nevertheless, we do need to make these cards every now and again. Now, as I said, my name is Jill Lancet. That is my online store. Please like, subscribe and share. All details will be down there in the description. And if you have any questions, either put it into the comments or you can email me, and yeah, I'm happy to help if there's something I can help you with. Okay, now I am using this gorgeous stamp set today. It's called Delicate Forest. Now, I saw this, the first time I saw this, I was like, yeah, that's right up my alley. I love anything like this. So this is a card, and it's using a couple of different techniques. It's using colors that I don't normally use, but you know what? I'm stretching my my artistic muscles. I'm going a little bit out of my comfort zone, and I hope you enjoy this video. So come with me, and we're using this tree here, and we're using this little verse that says, hoping each passing day lets in a little more sunshine. I just thought that was so lovely. And then you've just got sending our love you can put inside the card. It's got another sentiment there. You make good things better and stay strong, my friend. You'll get through this. So just beautiful sentiments that, you know, might help somebody through a rough time. So the first couple of things I'm going to do is to run through all of the measurements and the products that I'm using today. So I'm starting with a card base. Now, I don't know whether you've seen these mats, but we're going to get into these today. So it's US letter size or it's A4 metric size. Now you can actually email me and request a copy of the PDF. You will get these two pieces, but on one page. You can then cut them if you wish. You can cut them out and have a visual aid. I like to have this visual aid, and you might be able to benefit from that as well. So the first thing we're doing is a card base in whatever country you have. It's your piece, your full piece cut in half and scored in half again. Okay, so that's in Blackberry Bliss. I then have a piece of the Fresh Freesia, and whatever country you're in, it is in matte 3 size. So whatever your country is, matte 3. I then have another piece of Blackberry Bliss. Now I've gone between the two matte sizes here. So this is matte 3. I have a piece of the Fluid 100 in matte 4. And this one is exactly halfway between the two. So you're going to end up with this tiny little border, but I will put the details in the description, so don't worry about that. So that's the three pieces plus the card base, okay? Fresh Freesia, Blackberry Bliss card base, Fresh Freesia, Blackberry Bliss, and the Fluid 100 watercolor paper. So I'm popping these aside for the minute, and I'm just going to concentrate on the Fluid 100. Now, I have some of our masking paper, the Stampin' Up! Masking paper. Now, it's very, very sticky, so I have done 3 out of the 4, but I just want to show you what I'm doing. I'm just peeling the paper off. That's the protective layer. This is the masking paper, and it's very, very sticky. So what I'd like to do is to just lay that down on some fabric, on my shirt or whatever. Just take some of the stickiness away. or you can do it on your hand or your arm, whatever you like. It just takes some of that stickiness away. So I've done that on all of the other three, and I'm going to line this up so that I've got a border. So you can see through this, and I will put this mat back because it will just be a greater contrast. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to make this as straight as I can, and you can see the border there. So you can see that border there. I'm going to pop that down, and I'm going to do the same with the other three pieces. So one on the top, one on the bottom, and just be as straight as you can get it. And try and have the same border. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not going to be a jailable offence. But you want to stick that down really, really good. Now, once I've got this on here, I'm going to stick it down to this glass mat because that way I can keep hold of it. So just like that. And then the last piece, as you can see, it's got lint on it from where I've done that. So I'm just laying this down. I can see it through this darker background, and that's brilliant. So there. Now I'm going to lift this up, and I'm going to pop this down. Now this is actually like a desk topper over my glass mat, but I'm going to just move this a bit. Now the reason I have it there is because of the glare. So I'm going to pop this down like that. That is going to hold that in place, as well as create this beautiful little border that I've got. Now, with my mat, I'm actually going to, just in case I make a mess, okay? So I want a block. Now, the block could be the same size or bigger or smaller, but it's not going to matter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just ink up. I've got, oh no, I better start with the lightest colour. So I've got Bubble Bath, and I'm going to go about 1/3 of the way down this block. And it's so very pale, you probably can't even see it until I put it on that white background. Then I'm going with the Fresh Freesia. I'm doing the same thing, about 1/3. But this time it's across the middle, and then Moody Mauve across this last bit. Now these are not colours that, you know, I reach for every time, but I wanted to just go out of my comfort zone. Now I'm actually going to put this back. I'm going to put that cloth back on here for a minute because I want to spray this block lightly with just some water. I've got a tiny wee little spray bottle here, and I'm just spritzing this with water, and you can probably see that now. Now it's not dripping wet, but it's wet. So now this is going on to my piece, and I may need to move it around a bit, so I'm just putting it down in the middle there, and I want to just move this around a little bit just to spread that. Now if you don't think that's wet enough, you can just quickly lift that up and spritz it again. As long as you put it back in the same spot. Yeah, see, that's a bit better. So now I can sort of spread these colours around right to the edge. I've got my masking tape there, and anything that I'm not really happy with, I can just use a brush and some water. I've got a brush and some water here. So I'm just going to get a brush out, And I'm just going to wet this down here. And I'm going to take some of this colour and move that around to the edge. Take some of this colour, move that to the edge. And take some of this beautiful bubble bath. Now, if that's not enough, you can always just squash that down on there and just go straight over the top. Now that's quite wet. It's very wet, in fact. But it's watercolour paper, so it's meant to be wet. So now what I want to do is just clean up this mess. And give this a bit of a dry. Now the problem with this is that it may lift the masking paper. Now you can see that's starting to dry now. It's not so wet. You could, of course, let that dry naturally if you wanted to, but you can see that's lifting now, but that's okay because we've already done our masking. In fact, I can lift this off now and continue drying that. And it just gives a really lovely border. Just like a real work of art. Now there's a little bit stuck there, so I'm just going to take this off. Doesn't want to cooperate, but it will. There we go. Now I can pop this back down because I know those lights are a bit glary. So I'm going to continue drying that. I'm just going to pop that out of the way, and I'm just going to continue drying that. And you'll see the gradation in the colours, like how they've just sort of smooshed together. And yet we've got this beautiful little border that sort of showcases those colours, you know. We could have done the whole thing, but I wanted to give this a really arty look. So I'm just heating this from the back. I'm doing it on speed 1, which is a gentler speed and a gentler heat. And we're just about done with this now. But you do want this dry before you start stamping on this paper, because if the ink from the stamp hits damp paper, then it will do what it always does. It'll bleed into the dampness. So just make sure this is really, really dry. And I think we're just about done there now. Let me just check. Yep, that feels good. Now, if it gets a bit warpy, while it's still warm, you can kind of, you know, push it around, push it back into shape. But we will be gluing it down, so yeah, there's no issues there. Now, the other thing I wanted to do too was to do some more masking off, because I don't want to stamp over this border. So I'm just going to get some Post-it note, and I'm just going to cover across the bottom, essentially, and the bottom is the darker colour. So I just want to mask this off, and basically just over to this one side, because this is where I'm going to do the stamping. So I've just masked that off. and you'll see what we're going to do with this now. So I really, as I said, I really loved this tree. Now I'm just going to hold this down here because it's a bit wibbly wobbly. So we have our lighter colours in the background. Now I'm going to use the Blackberry Bliss, and this big tree stamp, I'm assuming it's a tree, in the Blackberry Bliss. Now I've just inked this up, so it's going to be really juicy, but I want to get like 3 what is the word, generations. Oh, I have to put it on my mat because it's a photopolymer, and this is watercolor paper. I really want to make sure I get a really good inking of this. So I'm going to ink this up, and you'll see that this is across the border, as I said. So now I want this to be down one side, full strength. Okay, full strength. And I've tried to line that tree trunk roughly with the edge. Now I'm holding that down. I'm going to do a second generation stamp on this side here. I'm going to do it at a different height, and it's going off the border. So that's our second generation stamp. Now, because the watercolor paper is a little bit not smooth, sometimes you do have issues with the ink filling in all of the holes. Now I'm going to do a third generation, but I'm going to do it on the paper. So I'm just going to ink it up again, do a first, do a second, and then do a third over here. Just so there's 3 different textures, colours, and heights. So you can see that now, and it looks kind of really dark black, but this is what I did. I got the blender pen. Now this is different to our blends. Our blends are alcohol markers. The blender pen has some blending solution in it, and what you can do is you can just pop a little bit of the ink just on the edge of a block, and any areas that you want to define. So you can see how that hasn't quite stamped all the way through. Well, you can just take your blender pen, and if you need it darker, you just take a little bit of the ink, and I'm only doing this on this first generation one because I want this to have the greatest contrast. So you could put this in a stamp positioning tool like the Stamparatus or the Misty, and you could stamp it over and over again until you got the right depth. But this is another option. If you don't have one of those, this is a great way to fill in those areas that haven't quite stamped. Now, quite possibly there's enough ink just here to do that without dipping it into the ink, but I wanted it kind of really dark, so yeah. Yeah, and I just wanted to show you a different option. Now look, if you don't get that perfect, nobody's going to say that leaf should not be that shape. Okay, so don't sweat the small stuff, whatever you do. So there we go. Now to clean this blender pen, all I need to do is to scribble it a couple of times. I'm just going to fill that one in, fill this one in, and then I'll show you. So to clean it, just on a bit of scrap paper, the colour is still there, but you just keep scribbling that off until it's clear. And it doesn't take very long at all. So that's ready to go. It has stained the tip, but that still works. It's not going to affect it at all. So now we've got these three beautiful, and I'm just looking at the tree trunk now that I've missed some bits. And I'm just going to go in and fill those in. There we go. And look how much colour comes up with these blender pens. So if you don't have the Stampin' Write markers or the markers to the exact colour, this is a thing you can do. You can buy these, you get 3 in a pack. They're double-ended, so you're effectively getting 6. And you can just pick up little bits of colour and from your ink pad or your re-inker, and you've got that in a marker, right? There we go. So there's that. Now, I wanted to stamp the sentiment. I want to stamp it down here. So I'm just going to clean that bit of ink off there. And that was like the tiniest little bit of ink. And I'm going to ink this up. I'm going to give it a really good ink. I think I just put my finger in it. No. Did put my finger in that side though. Now I just re-inked this, as I said, so it's quite juicy. And you could also do this with a stamp positioner, but you know, if you don't have one, it's not essential. So I'm just going to pop that. Oh, that doesn't look dark enough. Let me get that again. Okay, so I want to put it down here, and I think about there. Actually, I hope that's straight. I'm not really over the top of it, but there we go. Now you just want to hold that down. Now, as I said, this is watercolour paper, so a nice bit of pressure. We've got the mat pushing back up. So let's, fingers crossed, let's hope that turns out really, really well. And not as good as I'd like, but you know what? This is a handmade piece of art. So there we go. Now I'm just going to clean that stamp because we all know what will happen, don't we? Yep. Right. Now, I'm going to get rid of all of that stuff, bring all this stuff back and put this together. Now, the watercolour paper is kind of like a cross between white and very vanilla. So it's a bit tricky to match, but I've got this. This is some very vanilla, and it was in, I think it was in a combo pack that I bought a couple of years ago. But look, I've got oodles of the stuff, so I'm using it. So what I want to do is I want to glue these onto these three together, and I'm going to do that with some liquid glue, if I can find it, would you believe? Where is it? Oh dear. I think I better get a new one out. Don't know what I've done with it. But I like the liquid glue for the watercolor paper because it's strong, and yeah, this needs to have something strong on it. So a fair bit in the middle, and then just in from the edge, because it is going to spread. Okay, so just in from the edge. You don't want this oozing out everywhere. Oh, haven't got a thing. Hang on. Hold your horses, honey. Right. Now, that's going on to the Blackberry Bliss piece. and there is a very tiny, tiny, tiny little border, okay? So I find it easier to do it this way and line it up on these 3 sides, and then you've still got a bit of wiggle time to adjust that if you need to. That looks okay to me, so that's that. Now I'm going to pop that onto the Fresh Freesia piece. So again, liquid glue. And then we're going to put some of this beautiful baker's twine on it. So again, I'm going to turn that this way. Oops, knocked everything over. Okay, so we've got this tiniest little hint of the Fresh Freesia, which just happens to be that middle colour there. And I tossed up what colour to use, but I really, really think I like that the best. So now I've got this beautiful, beautiful piece, and if this was a sympathy card, I probably wouldn't put too many blingy things on there. Now I don't like the look of that tree trunk there, so I'm just going to take my blender pen and I'm just going to hopefully, dear oh dear, hopefully just tone that down a bit, but you never know, could make it worse. You know what it's like, you know, when you say, oh, should have left that alone. Yep, I think that's one of those times. Doesn't matter, doesn't matter. There we go. Yes, I've made it even more obvious. Should have let sleeping dogs lie. Now, I do want to put some baker's twine around here, and as I said, I'm just using this very vanilla one. Now, here's the idea, okay? I'm going to put about 3 of these around, and then I want to tie that in a bow on this side. So I think and this is where I become bowly challenged. Hang on, hold on. This seemed like a great idea. I'm going to cut this off, get rid of that. Now, let's try this again. Okay. So I want to just tie this in a bow. And I'm not doing the rabbit ears because it's too tricky on this side. So I've got this bow. Now I can adjust that to whatever way I want it. That's a bit big on that side. I think that looks fine. I think that looks okay. Now this is going up onto dimensionals, and it's going up onto the front of the card. Now look, very, very simple technique, simple design, and just a few items you need. So you can, you know, pretty much run off a really quick but gorgeous card with minimal supplies, minimal time. Yeah, so let's just get them off. Oh, there it is. Oh, I just had a little conniption fit then. I thought I'd lost this because this would be really, really hard to get these off with these stupid nails of mine. Right. There we go. Look at that. That's got to be a record, hasn't it? So make sure your card opens the right way. Now I'm just going to center this up, and with those sizes that I've given you, you will make perfectly proportioned cards every time. So there you go. Now let me know what you think about that. Let this be a lesson to you. Let sleeping dogs lie. Shouldn't have touched it, but yeah, look, a very, very simple. Now you could just put a piece of very vanilla in here and put your beautiful message in there as well. You could stamp off and create this very, very pale tree down one side of the card insert. I'm going to leave it at that. And yeah, I really do appreciate it when you guys let me know what you think. I just think that's purely simple, sweet, and the colours are not something that I would normally go for, but I think they work. So yeah, give me a thumbs up, subscribe and share this video, and let me know if you liked it, or let me know if there's anything I can help you with. Now we still have our celebration happening, so for every $90 that you spend you can get rewards for that. That's all on my website, on my online store there, so you can go and have a look at that anytime. Shop in your jammies. I do my best shopping in my pajamas. Anyway, let me know. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you all on Sunday night. Bye.